Well, greetings everybody. Feeling a little down. I guess Satan really put a stomping on me here with the turmoil that I went through just to be able to bring out videos without worry about ads popping up and getting copyrighted and things of that sort. But I brought out a video here yesterday that expounded a little bit on it, but I want to bring out a little more of these tests and trials I had to go through so I could bring forth truth for you, such as what I want to do today. I want to bring out a little bit on the 144,000, but also those that are going to be walking as the 144,000, as our King had walked, that we fashion our own lifestyles after here today. The prophets did speak about these things. You know, our King spoke about it. Isaiah spoke about it. Ezekiel spoke about it. Uh, it's going to be rather interesting, I hope, but I also want to touch on a couple comments and bring forth answers for you. One is for Harry Sit down here on this newest video that I did. I love you, Harry, but man, I'm sorry to say, I think that you've been left behind, my friend. You're going to be here after July 4th, it looks like. I'm going to show you some proof and evidence for you that you can stop looking for the rapture. Already came, man, it looks like, and boy, it's an awful thing. We all got left behind. But anyway, on this new video capture device here, as you see, when I move my mouse here, it's like an infinity screen that goes down. You can see, where, all the way down the row here, it shows this. But I had pushed on this button down here. I hit 2 times on this control thing, and it wiped out everything that was down here. You couldn't see that up this screen. And when I moved the mouse, it was like tracers. It was like a machine gun shooting off, wherever I swirled it, it was like tracers going down. And there was like 50 screens from here to this one screen here. So, I mean, it was like going into an infinity here, and my picture up here wasn't there. All I had was this bar up here to be able to do anything with, and there was nothing I could do to get back to this here format where all I had to do was click on the start and stop recording. So I ended up having to delete this program like 12, 13 times. Each time I went down here to my, what is this called? It's the control panel, and I went into programs and features, and I brought up the OSB and I deleted it. And then I went back to the site and I rebooted it, or I uploaded it again, but it came back the same way that everything was messed up. And man, I was freaking out. It was a horrible ordeal. And then, I was praying about it. I was like, Yahshua, can you believe, have you ever seen anything like this, Yahshua? I forgive Satan for what she's doing, but my word, I got to bring a video, what am I going to do here? And somehow I had clicked on something somewhere else, and a file opened up, and in there was like 12 or 13 times where I had downloaded this here program, and it didn't show up at all down in my control panel when I deleted things. So I ended up deleting all of those, and again deleting from my control panel everything. I went back and I downloaded this program again, and it came back right, and boy, I was so thankful. It's like, oh, thank you, Yahshua. So that was just part of it. Okay, now here on my other Filmora, this is Filmora's screen. And the thing is, with this, I've always said, I couldn't do any editing. When you take this, you drag it down here to where it is, and, it plays. You go over here, and then you hit the scissors like you do with any programming tool. Go over here, I'll cut this part out, supposedly. Hit the delete here like it should. But the problem is it don't do anything really. It just would get rid of, well, a few moments anyway, so that I can figure out how to do some editing. And then all of a sudden, I mean right out of the blue, oop, comes a commercial. Ah! Don't do commercial, man. I'll have to redo the video now. That's all it did. Man, what do I do? That's all it did. It got rid of the voice. It didn't get rid of the picture, so... But it does excellent for recording, and this is what I used for recording, was this right here, and it was a simple thing to use, and it showed the webcam. Of course, when I was recording, it would show my picture here, but once I hit this button for record, then the entire thing would collapse down and I couldn't see my face in the picture up here, just like I can't do right now. Let me get rid of this guy here just to show you. But anyway, that was the one that I was using for most all my videos, the screen here, the Filmora screen. So then I ended up needing to purchase this other Filmora 9. And in order to do that, it was a 3-day ordeal. But here I can... and I have actually used the editing, but the problem is when you hit the record button, it doesn't do the thing. It'll show just my face. It won't do the screenshot for this. And then when I do the other part of the record that says the PC screen, well, it'll bring up the thing to where I can record the screen. The background here, as you can see, it would show this, or show this here, but it wouldn't have my face on there, at all, to where I could explain things to you, when I clicked here, for the record. So basically Filmora 9 was useless for bringing forth videos. It just wouldn't do what the Filmora screen does. But I ended up getting a lifetime license for Filmora 9. Excellent device to do editing. The Filmora screen was excellent for videos, but you couldn't edit. Now why they do those things, I don't know. So anyway, I came over to this. I was doing a lot of research, okay, and you can see, let me see here. I started getting down to where it showed, different ways to, and this is the fella that finally helped me out the most. But I was also looking, you can see where it says how to record and everything with Filmora 9 and such, and I spent hours and hours and hours, especially down here a little further, I believe, but it shows all these different Filmoras, how to use it, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out before I ended up getting Filmora 9 as far as how to edit, thinking that I could edit with Filmora screen, and it just didn't work. So anyway, with that all aside, I finally did get a way to bring forth videos. As you can see here, this is the package I'm using, and this fella is where I got the information from. So if you're also desiring to bring forth videos, I do highly recommend that you come to this fella's site. It's How to Record Your Computer Screen and Webcam by Kevin Stratvert. This is from March 3rd, 2019. He's the one that showed me how to do this here open broadcaster. You go to obsproject.com, you click on Windows or Macs or Linux, it'll automatically download for you. And then what he does is he runs you through the Windows application, how to open it up so that you get a player that will do this and bring forth the videos with the quality that I'm now bringing forth the videos with. So anyway, here we are, with Harry Sit. Harry, I love you, man. And this was the newest video I brought, the first one ever that I actually did edit, because all the ones before, I just could not do so. It refused to allow me to edit, and I just thought that I was just a super dummy. But it turns out that the programming there, wasn't so you could edit. It was only to take a screenshot with your picture in it as the videos I'd done in the past. So anyway, here Harry Sid had wrote, and like I say, this is the one that I just uploaded about 15 hours ago. Are you deceived? Just who is grace? And what are the laws for? So Harry writes me and he says, I will get back soon to your video unless we get raptured today, okay? Not planning to be here. Won't miss anything here. Deal with the laws here and have fun, okay? Lots of laugh. Well, Harry, I'm sorry, man, but I got to show you something. And this is going to be very disheartening for everybody that believes in the rapture. My friend, it's a horrible thing. And I feel for you. But now I think maybe you should consider keeping the laws and commandments yourself, because you know what? You haven't been, and you got left behind, my friend. Now, this is from a channel that I've endorsed on several occasions. Now, this comes from Unbelievable Things That Will Make You Drop Your Jaw. And this was put out by That Is Impossible channel, which I've endorsed many times. I do hope that you'll take a look at this, as he brings out many, many interesting things that take place that are, totally unexplained. And this was from July 2nd, 2020 that he brought this forth. But Harry, look at this, man. Everyone who believes in the rapture, please look at this and consider your ways, man, because y'all got left behind. Educational purposes only.
Imagine going to a cemetery and finding every graveyard dug up. Why did this happen in Indonesia is still a mystery. No one knows exactly why all the graves have been dug up in this cemetery. Some believe, of course, it's the work of a mythological creature known as the vampire. But this is probably not it. What actually happened here, no one will probably ever know. What baffles me is that it probably had to be very quick.
Everyone got raptured, Harry. I mean, wasn't that awful? I mean, it's so bad that this guy don't even have a head. Look at that, man. He done lost his head. I mean, he must have heard about the rapture too and just freaked him out. But anyway, what I do want to comment on next is our brother Demetrius, where I can find you over here, with the Black Lives Matter video I put out on June 20th, 2020. Demetrius Thomas, he wrote me. And he says, Al-Yahnai Hawkins, thanks for the reply. And I do encourage you all to read the comments that come and to put forth comments yourself. You got questions or anything, comments, please. I do write back every time I'm notified. But of course, I just had written back Demetrius here a second ago. It shows on the screen, which is probably about a half hour ago since I had written. But he had written 3 days ago here. The first time he had wrote, it was 6 days ago, and I didn't see it for 3 days. I wasn't notified. There's no notification of his writing me, as you can see here. There's nothing, and this is 3 days ago. Omega Truth had wrote me 3 days ago. I answered her. But 4 days ago, here Harry Sit wrote 5 days ago and 6 days ago. Here word a week ago, and you can see Demetrius Thomas just didn't show up here. Okay, so I clicked on when I was going to bring forth a video for Harry Sit, and I was going to use this screen to do some research for Harry. When I came across again that Demetrius Thomas had written me again. So please, if I'm not answering y'all, it's because I'm not being notified. And there's almost 500, well, 300 now, because I deleted about 200 of the videos I had posted. And there's no way I could go through them hundreds of videos just to find out if somebody had written that I didn't see, So it was just a thing that our king had led me to find out about Demetrius Thomas here, writing this 3 days ago. And I did reply on part of it, but I figured I'd bring this video to go to further extents. Anyway, Demetrius Thomas says, Al-Yahnai Hawkins, thanks for the reply. I only ask because the 144,000 are those of the nation of Israel, 12,000 from each tribe, which it does show over here in Revelation 7 that this is true. And they're also from the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth or the sea or any tree. These four Malachim are holding back these winds, and it shows that the number of those that were sealed was from these tribes. Okay, so anyway, we agreed on that. The word speaks of the lost sheep of Israel, and that's something that, at first, on his first comment, I thought that, I was, at first, like a lot of people do, he asked me, he says, Shalom, question, sir, do you consider yourself an Israelite or a Gentile? And I don't fall into those traps, and I found out now that it wasn't a trap, and I'm sorry, Demetrius, for thinking it was, because I've gotten many comments before when I was asked similar questions to that, and when I say, well, I'm one of the lost sheep, well, people wanted me to show verification that I was of the lost sheep, that I was of Israel, the tribes of Israel, and the thing was, if you can show this kind of proof, then we'd not be lost. So I had avoided telling the truth without actually saying whether I was or not. But the 144,000 are of those that were scattered. We'll get into those things here shortly. Anyway, Demetrius says, the word speaks of the lost sheep of Israel who are scattered to the four corners of the world. Isaiah 11:12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, gather together the dispersed of Yada from the four corners of the earth, which we also just showed in Revelation 7 there. And I'm going to further on in Isaiah with some of this information that will add to these things. And then Demetrius further says, he says, the Father has woke me up to my identity as an Israelite. We were sent in bondage for disobeying the Most High. Absolutely. You can identify Israel by reading Deuteronomy 28, the blessings and curses. And of course, Deuteronomy 28 right now has not been opened up. Otherwise, there'd be a whole different world out there taking place, because if people sinned and the punishment came upon them for doing so, they would have turned from their sins. I hope that everybody has been praying for judgment to come. I believe that many of you are. I've been doing it every time I pray. And right now we'll get into the floods in China and such. China, I do believe, from the evidence I've seen, was at one time reverencing Yahweh only. They called upon his name, they kept his laws and commandments, and there's evidence out there even on the web that and in YouTube that shows that China was of the people. They were of one of the tribes at least, and they followed the word correctly. But now, they're eating skunks and bats and all sorts of vermin and things, and thinking that it's all right. But judgment is coming upon them. There's some severe floods and landslides and earthquakes and all kinds of distress going on. The nation looks like it's going to fall, or there's going to be a world war that's going to take place here shortly. They're being plagued. So I do pray that you further in crying out for judgment, and with the hopes that when they see the problems that's upon them, that they'll wake up. That they'll wake up and be part of this number of, a number that no man can count, that will come out and start following the teachings again. It's in their DNA to do so. So let's pray for the people of China that are going to believe. Let their eyes be open, the scales fall off so they may see, and escape this judgment that's coming on the earth. So anyway, Demetrius furthers and says, If you believe the word, it says in the last days Israel will remember who they are, but only a remnant would be saved. And then he's got in parentheses 1/3. It's one part that I disagreed, and the only part I really disagreed with what Demetrius has written. Usually when somebody writes 4 words or more, I find one or more things that I disagree with. But I don't particularly believe that this 1/3 is going to be of the tribes or of the people, the remnant. I think the number's a whole lot less than that, though it could be accurate. I don't know. I've asked him to bring forth some more scripture if he has it. Anyway, furthering, it says, the Most High didn't do away with his chosen people, but through their failure, the Gentiles were able to be grafted in. Romans 11:11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Yahweh forbid, but rather through their fall salvation has come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. And again, that's part of what's taking place in China and other places across the earth today. Romans 11:25, for I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is occurred to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And that's the number that no man can count, that it speaks of in Revelation chapter 7 as well. Romans 11:26, and so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out a Zion. And that's like right there what you had said there, Demetrius, and all Israel shall be saved. And that's why I kind of disagreed with the 1/3 here, and I may be uncertain as to what you were actually saying as your point there, but I kind of took it as the remnant. Got a hair across my lens. But I kind of took it as you were speaking about the remnant here who would be saved as a third. But then again, all of Israel is going to be saved. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn many away unrighteousness, and shall turn away unrighteousness from Jacob. And shall turn away unrighteousness from Jacob. And yes, sir, I'm very aware of the schoolmaster. All right, great to go there, Demetrius. It makes me feel joyous. And yes, sir, I'm very aware of the schoolmaster, which is the law, as well as keeping the feast days, Sabbath and Sabbaths. Proverbs 6:23, for the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. And I believe it's also in Psalms 19, I'm thinking it is, or 119, where it talks about your law is a lamp to my feet. Furthering, it says, I'm still learning how to keep the feast days, though as you know, these things take time to learn and all, and actually understand each one's purpose. And I agree, I don't understand them all completely. It really baffles me how the days have gotten to where it's almost an impossibility for most of us to be able to keep the Passover properly. I have not been able to find a goat or a lamb that's unblemished, undefiled. A lot of them, as soon as they're born, they cut off the testicles, and that's a blemish. You can't use one of those for the Passover, as well as roasting it with its entrails and everything in it. Here at my apartment complex, there's no way I could do that. All I have for transportation is my bicycle, and there's no way I can take, the lamb or the goat, off to some place to prepare it for the Passover, and yet eat it in my house and burn up the rest of the next. It's just pretty much an impossibility, but our King knows these things, and when he returns, he'll set it all straight. But the importance is how you accept it into your heart. And when you fall short in it even and don't even know what to do about it, just pray and ask for the forgiveness. Our King sees your willingness to obey, even though it may be an impossibility to do so. Just do the best you can, very best you can. And in furthering, Demetrius says, but I know they all point to our salvation and that millennial rest during the 1,000-year reign when our King will set up his government. If you follow and keep the commandments, then I see you as a brother and fellow laborer. And my friend, you are my brother as well, because you're doing so. You have that desire to do so. And I just hope that you keep coming back to this channel that our King had me bring up, several years ago, as there are a few brothers and sisters that come here and they do comment, and it's a great blessing for us all. Anyway, he says he's got Yeshua. I say Yahshua, but anything is better than the Jesus. Yeshua is our King, and the body is one. Absolutely. I brought that out, I think, in this last video. But with different offices, with Israel being the head. Just remember, the 144,000 will not be random people from other nations, but from the nation of Israel, peace and shalom. And I totally do agree. Anyway, let's take a look what it says here, and this is for educational purposes, but I want you to hear what this fellow is saying. I do believe that China is going to be wakened up. Those that are of the tribes will come forth from there soon, hopefully. This I'm going to use just a portion for educational purposes, of course. And it's entitled, Floods in China Reach Biblical Proportions. Why should TikTok spy on Americans? Crossroads and Joshua. This is Crossroads with Joshua Phillip. He put this out July 2nd, 2020. Please take a listen to what's going on here.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. First off, some breaking news. Floods in China are nearing biblical proportions. Rains have lasted over 30 days and they are continuing. And many other disasters are hitting China all at once, including tornadoes, hailstorms, torrents, mudslides, and earthquakes. And this is in addition to a possible new virus outbreak from a virus similar to the swine flu, and also expected locust swarms.
So they're getting slammed there. There's very little doubt about it. They are being slammed. And of course, here in America and such, from the NBC Nightly News broadcast, full June 29th, 2020, NBC Nightly News, from NBC News Channel, June 29th, 2020. I mean, when you look at these poor ladies out here, this lady here apparently only owns like 2 face masks because she's wearing it to cover up. They've gotten so poor with the unemployment rates and things of that going on that they, those that are blessed with, like this lady here that might be blessed with 2 face masks, they actually have to wear them just to conceal their naked self while they're out there on the beaches sharing the disease with each other, that sort of thing going on. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on that. Let's take a look actually what's going on. See, now as far as the 144,000 are concerned, our King speaks of them. It talks about here in Matthew 24:30, it says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with great power and great glory. And it speaks also in other scripture where the kingdom is going to come to the earth, and it's going to settle in the clouds. It's going to set there, and it's going to remain there throughout the 1,000-year millennial reign, where everyone will be able to see the kingdom setting on the cloud. And of course, until after the second resurrection, which will take place after the 1,000-year millennial reign, when Satan will gather her armies during the 100 years that she has been released from her bondage. And of course, the second resurrection takes place. She's going to bring forth these armies from Gog and Magog and such from all over the earth, and they're going to come up against Jerusalem, the holy city where our King's going to be ruling from. and try to make war, but our father's going to, blow out from his nostril just a little blast, and he's going to melt everybody that has come up against Jerusalem in those days. And that's what the Armageddon actually is. Armageddon's not going to be for the second coming, I guess, of our King, because he came once and gave his life for us all. This will be the second coming. Sorry, Harry, man. As you'd seen earlier, it's an awful thing, you're left behind. But maybe you can keep the commandments and we'll get along a whole lot better here with everybody. But anyway, furthering here, Matthew 24:31, it says, "And he," talking of our King, "shall send his Malachim," his holy Malachim, "with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall be gathered, and they shall gather together his elect, his chosen, his remnant, the elect, the wise, the servants." And our King was the first to entitle us the 144,000. He's going to gather together his 144,000 from the four winds that we've seen over here in Revelation. After those things, Revelation 7:1, "After those things I saw four Malachim, holy Malachim, standing at the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth." And that's what it's speaking of over here in Matthew 24:31. "And they shall gather together as elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other." So it's going to be, and I believe in Mark 13 or something like that, it talks about that they're going to be gathered from one end of the earth to, the farthest parts of the heavens, and we're going to be brought to a certain place. Let's take a look at what Isaiah 49 speaks of, and this is a prophecy that is still, it's taking place now, but it is still yet to come. This is, some of these prophecies do these things where they kick in, and for a while they'll go on until the conclusion of the prophecy takes place. Isaiah 49:1, it says, "Listen, O coastlands, to me, and take heed, you peoples from afar. The Father has called me from the womb, from the matrix." Okay, pretty interesting. And I know there's a lot of things taking place that are messing with the matrix. What do they call that? The Mandela effect and all sorts of things taking place. But anyway, "From the matrix of my mother, he has made mention of my name." And that's how Satan knew of me and how I've been tormented my entire life, through the dead and everything else tormenting me all along my journey up until this very day. But it was for the shaping of me. I know that the other 143,999 brothers of mine out there are going through the same types of tests and trials, things of this sort, to shape them into the vessel that our King needs to represent his body in these last days, which is what Isaiah is speaking of here. Isaiah 49:2, "And he has made my mouth like a sharp sword." And yeah, there's a lot of times, that I've spoken some truths that I know have cut some of you really deep because you thought you was doing absolutely correct, and then I say something that's written right in the scriptures that sometimes you hadn't seen before, though you read it, and it just cut you right to the quick, and it's at times, that my mouth is like a sharp sword because I speak only truth. Whether you like it or don't, I speak the truth, and you have to deal with it. I've already dealt with it, and I chose to walk as our King had walked. "And he has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he has hidden me, and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver he has hidden me." I'm hidden. The 144,000 are hidden in our King's quiver. We're scattered everywhere. We're hidden. And like in the book of Enoch, it speaks of, that we was not heard or seen until a certain time, but the children of the earth could hear us. The rest of the world, no, we were hidden from them. Anyway, Isaiah 49:3, "And he said to me, you are my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. And who is this Israel? It explains down here. These are the tribes of Israel. And that's who he's speaking. My servant, O Israel, which are the 12,000 from each tribe. They are this servant. Okay, the remnant, the chosen, the elect, the ones that have been called out first. Isaiah 49:4. Then I said, I have labored in vain. I felt like it so much, but I got to the point, I don't care. I'll put in the expense to do this work the best I can with my time, with my money when I do get a couple nickels to rub together and I don't have an expense of $6.27 that I can't use them 2 nickels on being able to produce these things for you by, buying books or, whatever it is, software so I can get this word out. I'm going to do the best I can. But, and I felt like I've been laboring in vain. Take a look at the views on the videos that I bring forth, and it seems like I'm bringing them forth in vain. But, even if there's just one out there that's looking at these videos, hearing and accepting the words, then it's well worth all the time I have in the world. That's what I live for, is to serve you. So he says, then I said, I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for nothing and in vain. Yet surely my just reward is with the Father, and my work with my Father. And now the Father says, who formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob back to him, so that Israel is gathered to him. For I shall be glorious in the eyes of Yahweh, and my Father shall be my strength. Indeed, he says, is it too small a thing that you should be my servant, to rise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved ones of Israel? I get goose chills just reading these things. I will give you as a light to the Gentiles, that you should be my salvation to the ends of the earth. And what I was shown is that the 10 Commandments, if you keep the 10 Commandments, and the only way you can do that is by following the schoolmaster, the give or take 613 laws. Not the ones that was added 430 years after Father Abraham was promised what he was promised, because those are the temple laws and, the Levitical priesthood laws, things of that sort that do not matter. What was added isn't going to do away with the covenant of the the original, give or take, 613 laws. And when you learn these things, it brings us to our King, that we can learn to trust in him only. And when we get these 613 laws by the schoolmaster perfected or even close to it, then our King you're given to, and he replaces that because it's in your DNA not to sin again. You hate it. You don't want to sin no more. And so then our King sort of trades in the laws that you're going to keep no matter what, even to death, and he's going to give you the faith, the true faith. You can't have the faith unless you keep the commandments by keeping the give or take 613 laws. And this is what it says here. It says, indeed, he says, is it too small a thing that you should be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved ones of Israel? I will also give you as a light to the Gentiles, so they can hear this number that no man can count, that you should be my salvation to the ends of the earth. And the only way you're going to get salvation is by keeping the rules of the kingdom, the commandments, the schoolmaster, and trusting in our King only. Thus says the Father, the Redeemer of Israel, the Holy One, to him whom man despises, to him whom the nation abhors, to the servant of rulers, kings shall see and arise, princes also shall worship. Yes, they're going to, because of the Father who is faithful, the Holy One of Israel, and he has chosen you, and he has chosen me. Isaiah 49:8, thus says the Father, in an acceptable time I have heard you. And in the day of salvation, okay? Because since the year 325 AD until now, there's been no salvation. They killed off every one of the true believers, offering them a piece of pork. If you eat the piece of pork, well, you can live, along with the rest of us sinners, you can live, and you won't be put to death. But if they didn't eat that piece of pork, they were sewn up in animal skins, and scorpions and snakes were dropped down into it. They sewed it up, and after they stopped quivering and such, going into convulsions, they'd kick them over a cliff and let the sharks eat them. Or they used them with the gladiators. They would hang them up in their gardens and poke holes in them, filling the wounds with oil and lighting them on fire to light the gardens. They were fed to the wild animals. I mean, there were some horrible ways they killed these ones because they wouldn't eat a piece of pork. Think about it. They didn't love their life that much that they wanted to remain on the earth, and even those times it was horrible back then as well as it is today. But here he says in Isaiah 49:8, thus says the Father, in an acceptable time I have heard you. I cried for a long time, please guide me. At the same time I was a warlock and out there committing fornication and adultery and everything else, but I was crying out, and he heard me. And in the day of salvation, this is the only time that salvation has been opened again since the year 325 AD. There's not been a preacher to bring forth the truth until these last days when our King is raising up the 144,000. So that the children of the earth and all the Gentiles, a number that no man can even count, is going to hear and understand. But there's going to be some that's still going to reject the truth. In an acceptable time I have heard you, and in the day of salvation I have helped you. I will preserve you and give you as a covenant to the people. The covenant we spoke of many times. Hebrews 8. What is it? For this is the covenant. Hebrews 8:10. For this is the covenant that I'll make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yahweh. I'll put my laws in their mind and write them on their hearts. I'll be their father. They shall be my people. That is the covenant. He's going to give, me and the other 143,999 brothers of mine out there scattered across the earth to the farthest ends of the earth and to the farthest parts of the heaven. He's going to give as a covenant to the people so we can teach and share with you how to keep these laws. I will preserve you and give you as a covenant to the people. And Enoch, he says over here that we are a reward. Let me show you real quick in that. Under 105 here. He says, he's speaking where it's got these big capital YOU and YOUR. It's talking to the 144,000. He says, in those days, he says, Yahweh will be patient and cause the children of the earth to hear. So if you're hearing and you're not part of the 144,000, and you're not part of that, the tribes that eventually are going to be saved, but you're of the number of the Gentiles and you can hear, that's a marvelous thing. Walk in what you understand. But he tells us about you here are going to hear, and then he commands us basically, he says, reveal it to them with my wisdom, with the wisdom of the 144,000. For the 144,000 are their guides, and the chosen are a reward upon the whole earth. That's what is being spoken of here. In an acceptable time, Isaiah 49:8, in an acceptable time I have heard you, and in the day of salvation I have helped you. I will preserve you and give you as a covenant to the people. He's given us as this covenant to restore the earth, to cause them to inherit the desolate heritages, that you may say to the prisoners, go forth, And to those who are in darkness, show yourself. Now, these prisoners are both physical prisoners in the prisons of man on this earth, but also your prisoners if you are sinning and caught up in a sin. Like poor Theodore, that just thinks that it's okay to eat pork, though the scripture says not to. And then he wants you to read his dissertation there saying, that you are to repent. And how do you do it? You turn from your sins. But yet he holds on to his and wants to lead people off astray doing the same. You either believe 100% or you're lost. You're a prisoner. Now you may say to the prisoners, go forth, and to those who are in darkness, show yourselves. They shall feed along the roads, and their pastures shall be on all the desolate heights. They shall neither hunger nor thirst, neither heat nor sun shall strike them. Now it's important to understand these parts, because these ones, it talks about in Revelation, that there's a Malach going to pour out his bowl on the sun, and it's going to scorch men. It talks about how there's going to be the earth being burned in Isaiah chapter 24. The earth will be burned and few men left because they rejected the truth. They broke the commandments. They broke the everlasting covenant. They changed the ordinance. That's why the earth is going to be burned and few men left. But those who are going to walk in the truth by keeping the commandments, the 10 commandments, by keeping the laws and trusting in our King, they're not going to be bothered by this heat, nor will the sun strike them, for he who has mercy on them will lead them. Even by springs of water he will guide them. Now it also talks about, when that star wormwood's going to come down and it's going to poison, like a third of the waters or whatever. These are not the springs that he's going to bring us by. These springs of water are the truth that comes forth, and will have the power to cleanse even the waters, as you may have read about in the days of old. Even Moshe, they came across an oasis or whatever where the waters were poisoned, and he healed them, and other prophets have healed waters as well. It's not going to be a problem for us in the last days. Our King said that what he has done, we're going to do in greater, so we're going to be protected. Isaiah 49:11, and I will make each of my mountains a road, and my highway shall be elevated. It'll be high above these people. They're going to be suffering greatly out there, while those that believe the truth by keeping the laws and commandments, they're going to be protected, and their ways are going to be of the kingdom elevated above, kind of like with Isaac, where he is the covenant from above, and Ishmael is the covenant of below. That's what this is. I'll make my mountains a road, and my highways shall be elevated. We're going to be living on a different plane in the same existence as those that have the other covenant of the world. Surely these shall come from afar. Look, those from the north and the west, and those from the land of Sinim. S-I-N-I-M here. Now let's take a look at what this land of Sinim is here. It's word 55:15 in the Hebrew. And it says down here, it says Sinim, or thorns, a people living at the extremity of the known world, may be identified with the inhabitants of southern China. And that's where a lot of these judgments are being poured out upon them right now. So anyway, Isaiah 49:13 says, sing, O heavens, be joyful, O earth, and break out in singing, O mountains. For Yahweh has comforted his people and will have mercy on his afflicted. Okay, read the rest of that if you'd like. Let's go to Isaiah 2 to show another sequence that's going to take place during the time of Isaiah 49. This is also going to be taking place. Isaiah 2:1, the word of Isaiah, the son of Amoz, saw concerning Yada in Jerusalem. Now it shall come to pass in the latter days, in the last days, at the mountain of Yahweh's house, the house of Yahweh, shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it. All nations are going to flow to it. We've just seen some of that taking place. Many people shall come and say, come, and let us go up to the house of Yahweh, to the house of the father of Jacob. He will teach us, Yahweh will teach us his ways, and we shall walk in his paths. Remember the scripture where it talked about, our Father says, my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. Well, they're going to be when we all get gathered and these nations flow unto where the gathering's going to be. For out of Zion shall go forth the law. So if the law was done away with, why in the world is it going to go forth when this is in a future tense here going on? It's a prophecy for later on. Right now, people reject the law, but this is what's going to be coming forth, is the law to all these nations that will flow to the place where we're gathered. The law will go forth, it shall go forth, and the word, the every living word of the Father from Jerusalem. And then get this, he shall judge between the nations, and rebuke many people. He shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Here in Ezekiel, it says here, Ezekiel 20:33, under the subtitle of Yahweh will restore Israel. As I live, says the Father, surely with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. This is Yahshua, our King. He's speaking of, with his king, Yahshua, surely with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, and with fury poured out, I will rule over you. As you see over here, once again, these floods that are taking place in China, and the swine that they insist on eating and such, these things are being poured out upon them to wake them up. I will, in Ezekiel 20, verse 34, and I'll bring you out from the peoples and gather you out of the countries where you are scattered. And with a mighty hand, with our king, which is also his outstretched arm, and with fury poured out. These judgments that you should be praying for. Let this fury be poured out so people will wake up. Start reverencing our Father, Ezekiel 20:35 here. And I'll bring you into the wilderness of peoples, and there I will plead my case with you face to face. A lot of people, think that once saved, always saved. They don't even consider what was is going to be again. And exactly what went on in the wilderness, except it's going to be a whole lot better for those who will obey. There weren't many that did obey back in the first days there of the wilderness. None of the parents survived except for like Caleb and, a couple. Most of them had died. Yahshua, he made it out of the wilderness. But almost all the parents of the children had died off. Only the young that were left went into the promised land, into the land of Canaan, to go a-whoring after the gods that were there. This is going to be different. This is going to bring to a conclusion all the matter, that is taking place in the scripture. And our King, when he returns shortly after this takes place, is going to bring forth 1,000-year millennial reign. And Satan's going to be bound. There's not going to be any sin allowed. But anyway, Ezekiel 20:35, and I'll bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and there I will plead my case with you face to face. And what is his case? Obey. Keep my 10 commandments and follow the schoolmaster so that you can trust in the king and our Father through the king only. That is his case. Ezekiel 20:36, just as I pleaded my case with your fathers in the wilderness in the land of Egypt, so I will plead my case with you, says Yahweh our Father. And I will make you pass under the rod. I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. And as you've seen earlier, the covenant is what the 144,000 are going to bring forth for you to walk in. It's going to be explained. Keep the commandments and the laws. Let them be written in your inward parts, your mind, your heart, your every fiber of your DNA. I'll make you pass under the rod, and I'll bring you into the bond of the covenant. And now listen, I will purge the rebels from among you, and those who transgress against me, those who break the laws. I'll bring them out of the country where they dwell, but they shall not enter the land of Israel. Then you'll know that I am Yahweh your Father. As for you, O house of Israel, thus says Yahweh your Father, go serve every one of you his idols. And hereafter, if you will not obey me, but profane my holy name no more with your gifts and your idols, for on my holy mountain, and the mountain height of Israel, says Yahweh the Father, there all the house of Israel, all of them in the land, shall serve me. There I will accept them, and there I will require your offerings and the first fruits of your sacrifices, together with all your holy things. I will accept you as a sweet aroma when I bring you out from the peoples and gather you out of the countries where you have been scattered, and I will be hallowed in you before the Gentiles. Then you shall know that I am Yahweh when I bring you into the land of Israel, into the country for which I raised my hand and oath to give to your fathers. And there you shall remember your ways and all your rotten doings with which you were defiled. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight because of all the evils that you have committed. I'm hoping that you're doing this right now to where you don't have to do it in that day. Hopefully, you get it all out of your system and become perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Ezekiel 20:44. Then you shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have dealt with you for my name's sake, not according to your wicked ways, nor according to your corrupt doings, O house of Israel, says Yahweh our Father. Go ahead and read on those things if you so desire. But anyway, the will of our Father, this is what he wants. Matthew 12:46. This is talking about our King, while he was still talking to the multitudes, behold, his mother and brothers stood outside seeking to speak with him. But then one said to him, look, your mother and your brothers are standing outside, seeking to speak with you. But our King answered and said to the one who told him, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And he stretched out his hand toward his disciples and said, here are my mother and brothers, for whoever does the will. Keep the commandments. Be obedient to the every living word. Keep the commandments by following the schoolmaster and learning to trust in our King only, who will give you the true faith when you accomplish these two things. First, but whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. And everybody else that isn't, our King's going to say, hey, get away from me, I never knew you. You who practice iniquity, you who practice transgressing the laws, you who practice lawlessness. It's just seen here in Isaiah. That out of Zion is going to go forth the law. They've never been done away with. So I pray that y'all consider these things. I do love y'all. I'm going to quit the recording. I would that it would show me how much time has gone on. It's almost an hour, 59:20. Bye.